we're a melting pot. Fayetteville is a melting pot of the United States. Every diverse ethnic group I can think of is represented here.
Hello and welcome to The Nice Show, news, information, conversation, and entertainment on ccnc.news. This is the newest media portal for Cumberland County, North Carolina. If you have a show or if you know someone who has a show, why don't we get together? We'll get you put on the portal and help you grow. My name is Charles Bosworth. Many of you know me as Boz or Charlie, and if we don't know each other yet, maybe we can meet soon. Thanks for clicking the play button. What you just heard was a clip from my interview with Councilman Johny Dawkins, who is seeking re-election for City Council District 5 here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So we're going to spend the next 35 minutes talking with Johny and learn what he can do if you re-elect him on July 26th. Now, just to be clear and transparent, I have invited all municipal candidates on this podcast. I only received a reply from 7 of the 20 candidates. 2 of the 7 have schedules that conflict with my recording schedule, so we won't be hearing from them. Now, we've already heard from Peter Pappas and Kathy Jensen. And before we get into the conversation with Councilman Dawkins, I want to remind you that if you are listening to this podcast before July 23rd, that early voting is underway. And you can cast your vote at the Board of Election office located at 227 Fountainhead Lane here in Fayetteville. On July 26th, you'll be able to vote at your normal polling place center. And these are the municipal elections for City Council and Mayor only. Also, I want to give a special thanks to publisher Bill Bowman from Up and Coming Weekly for allowing me to use his conference room to record these interviews. Be sure to pick up your copy of Up and Coming Weekly that's available at many locations around Cumberland County. Also, special thanks to Linda McAllister for her support, taking the pictures, and helping to get the word out about these interviews. Now, let's get started. This afternoon, we are speaking with Johny Dawkins, who is councilman, and he is running to represent you again in District 5. And so I want to thank Johny for taking time to come visit with us and chat about this upcoming election.
Absolutely, Boz. Excited to be here and appreciate what you're doing, educating and informing a lot of folks. It's so important.
It is. And one of the reasons why it's so important today is because of this election that's coming up, the election day, July 26th. Obviously, early voting is underway at this point, so we want to make sure that we can let as many people know about you and about what's happening and what has happened and what you want to see happen so that they make an informed decision when they go to the ballot box. So we'll start off with just the background, take it from that place where I know a lot of people listening do know who you are, but for maybe that person that's tuning in, we'll just do the Reader's Digest. Who is Johny Dawkins?
Thanks, Boz. Well, I was born here and grew up, of course, right here in Fayetteville, primarily in what's called Haymont, and which is where my dad grew up. And Dad served on council and became mayor, and that got me interested, and then got involved, got elected in 2003, and then took some time off away from council, got the kids raised, and then came back in 2017 and won, and then again in 2019. And then we had our elections delayed because of the census and also because of the pandemic. And so that's caused our November 21 election to now occur on July 26th. Of 2022. But my background, primarily business, led the Chamber of Commerce, had 3 computer stores for 15 years, Fayetteville, Myrtle Beach, and Hickory. And then after my daughter got sick with her first brain tumor, I decided I'd better move into health insurance because I worked all of her medical claims. And then, of course, my dad with his prostate cancer, worked all of his claims for 7 years, and my daughter did good with chemotherapy and radiation, multiple brain surgeries. So I learned a lot about the insurance business. So I got in the health insurance business in 2000, and that's where I am now. I work as a consultant for a company called eBen Concepts. So primarily led the Chamber, Military Affairs Council, that sort of thing. Been on lots of boards, whether it be Fayetteville State Foundation or Fayetteville Tech Foundation, Urban Ministry, Snyder Deacon Board, but very focused on community and business and jobs. Yes, sir.
Excellent, excellent. Tell us what it was like growing up as a mayor's son.
Well, wasn't always a lot of fun. When I got my first speeding ticket on Ramsey Street, by the time I got home, the phone was ringing, and Dad said, "Son, did you just get a speeding ticket?" And I said, "Goodness, Dad, that was about 7 or 8 minutes ago." "Yes, sir, I did." And he said, "Well, I'm not very proud of you." "Yes, sir, Dad. Love you. I'll see you when you get home." And so someone saw me being pulled. And this was before cell phones. This was
Right.
1976. And they were calling my dad, who was on the city council. And so I got a few more since then, but I tried to be, if I got them, I tried to make sure I was out of town.
Well, if it was today, then it would be 15 or 30 seconds, and
Exactly.
and you
it'd
would
be
have
on the
no
internet.
time.
It'd be on
that's
Facebook
true.
or
Pictures and all.
TikTok. I mean, it would be worldwide. Councilman gets speeding ticket. Floggings begin at 6 p.m.
Well, no doubt that experience of being a mayor's son and growing up with a family in service has led you down the service path, and I'm sure you have lots of stories and lots of examples that you can share of ways that you've helped in the community and done things in the community. What stands out the most over the past few years being on town council that you're proud of what's happened?
Well, my granddad, when he was in the North Carolina House, his slogan was "Service to the people," and Dad's was the same one. If I'd have been smart, I would have adopted "Service to the people." But no matter what it is, it's serving the citizen, and I get 3 to 4 new issues a week. So when you look at my nearly 7 years on council, close to 7. I've worked about 1,000 issues, for whether it be, doing something for the downtown, or doing something with zoning, or doing something with the garbage not being collected, or the leaves not being collected, or a dog out loose that we got to call the county and have them send the folks out, pick up a wild animal or stray animal. So it's so many different things have occurred, and a lot of it I'm very focused on the business piece. I want to see Fayetteville grow to that next level. I want Fayetteville to have all the amenities of Raleigh or Charlotte or Greensboro, but I still want it to be kind of a small town feel. And we're a good sized city now, a little over 200,000, and we have the largest military installation in the world right beside us. So there's lots of responsibilities that I take very seriously as a council member in serving the community, serving the people.
So when you got elected just almost 7 years ago?
Well, got elected and back on 17. I served 03 to 05. Mm-hmm. We did the Big Bang annexation, and I got beat, and a lot of folks were not happy being annexed into the city. So I got back on council in 17. Primarily, I was pushing the stormwater situation. Fayetteville, most folks know, is at the kind of the sand, we call it the Sand Hills, but it's kind of where the coastal plain meets the Piedmont. And because of that, we have some very serious stormwater issues. And so that was kind of the thing that I wanted to delve into, whether it be repairing dams or redoing waterways or redoing streets and roads to be able to handle stormwater. And we've made some great strides. We've still got a long, long way to go. About $200 million worth of issues we still have, but we've spent about $75 million in the last number of years.
So stormwater being one of the major issues, what are the obstacles to correcting, what needs to be fixed?
Goodness gracious, great question. Well, the first obstacle is if it's a major project, let's say Rose's Lake. Well, we lost the dam in 1982 or 1984, and because of that, our downtown floods every 2 or 3 years. And I've been pushing to get the dam on Rose's Lake rebuilt. And, of course, the Army Corps of Engineers controls the waterways of the world, as I like to say. Mm-hmm. And rightly so. They're a federal agency, and we need to listen to them because they're looking at the macro picture. I'm worried about the micro picture. I'm worried about making sure folks' houses or businesses don't get flooded. It's just a ton of work, and we have to get DENR involved, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources out of Raleigh. So you got the Army Corps of Engineers on the federal level, you got DENR on the state level, and then we got our own engineers, and they're trying to figure out what's best, and then we have to bring in consultants, and then they have their guidance, and sometimes there are conflicts. So that's what we're working with.
Now, you alluded to losing a dam, which actually, because we had a conversation about this not too long ago. I mean, it's been a while now, but we were talking about dams. Bring this to this audience. Talk about the dam situation, how many dams there are, and what's happened with them.
There are 54 dams in the city of Fayetteville, and only 3 of them are owned by the city. There's Mirror Lake Dam that's owned by the city. There's Devonwood Dam that's owned by the city. And then Rose's Lake Dam is considered to be a city-owned dam, but it's been breached. We have one very small dam, but most of the other dams are private dams, or you'll hear the term an amenity dam. And unfortunately, we've had quite a few of these to get breached by storms. Hurricane Fran damaged some dams. Hurricane Floyd. I mean, Fran goes back to 96. Floyd goes back to, I believe it was 16. Floyd is what busted the Mirror Lake Dam and the Devonwood Dam. The Devonwood Dam is under construction now. FEMA's reimbursing the city, and then the Mirror Lake Dam is complete, and FEMA reimbursed the city. The Aaron Lake Dam, unfortunately, is a private dam, and it was destroyed by Floyd and has not been replaced. So now what the Army Corps of Engineers and DENR decided that we have to make a cul-de-sac on each end of that dam. And unfortunately, unless we can find some money, they're not going to let us rebuild that dam. And it's terrible because that was an absolutely spectacular lake. And when that dam broke, it destroyed about 50 houses and ruined about 100 folks.
Wow. And with very little insurance. So, in fact, the governor came to town right after that when I was on council in 18, and we surveyed that area together. And, I said, Governor, we've got to find, some help from the state. And we've gotten some. But that dam replacement is not right now on the drawing board, unfortunately. So, yes, it's so many areas of our city are going to flood again, and it seems we have 100-year flood, Boz, about every 5 years, right?
Which is terrible.
Yeah.
We've had 2 500-year floods in like 7 years. I mean, that's awful. So, oh my goodness. And then Locks Creek, which is in District 2, it's terrible. And but folks own the land, and we need the Army Corps of Engineers to redraw the flood plain so that you would not be able to build in certain areas. And then you get into property rights. Well, doggone it, I own the property, so I ought to be able to build there. Well, okay, you can build there, but you've got to elevate the housing. So I keep saying it's the problem of our time, but that was before COVID hit. God knows COVID has changed people's lives forever.
Yeah, definitely. So the stormwater issue, something that you've been on top of and are tackling and continues to be an issue. Is there another major issue, with Fayetteville that going into this election that you're telling people that you want to address and that you're looking forward to being able to help solve?
That's right. Public safety is truly the most pressing issue. I mean, stormwater is personal. And has been for 5 years. But I tell you, our public safety has been a huge impact. Keeping cops has been a big challenge, and I can't get into personnel because I don't hire and fire the police chief, but I do hire and fire the city manager and the city attorney. And there's ways to encourage them to kind of do what we'd like to see happen. I am very pro law enforcement. I made the motion to fully fund the police department and have each time I've gotten the opportunity. Now, a couple of years out of the 5 budgets I voted on recently, they beat me to the punch to fully fund the police department. But, we've got a homicide problem. We've got a problem. And until we can get to the core of the problem, which I personally think, we've got a gang problem, and but we also have an economic development problem. We've got to create better jobs. So my 2 issues I'm pushing are public safety and better paying jobs. Now, we did bring in Amazon. That's going to be about 900 or so jobs. And then we've got the last mile facility out on 301 North, which is going to be around 100 to 120 jobs. And then and those are going to be $18 to $20 an hour. So, if we can get out of this $7 and $8 an hour, position to these $18 to $20 an hour, I find if you have more money in your back pocket, you're happier, and you tend to break the law less. And, unfortunately, when you come up in poverty, as so many of our citizens do, the only way out sometimes is to break the law, get into drugs, selling drugs, because you can make a lot of money. And unfortunately, we have got to get to the bottom of the drug issue as much as we can.
You said you don't hire the police chief, but as far as incentivizing police officers to come to Fayetteville, is there something that a plan that you have that can be put in place?
Absolutely correct. We have created a step pay process and also bonuses. We're paying thousands of dollars if you will come fully trained. And of course, Gastonia and Charlotte and Greensboro and Asheville are all doing the same thing to us. They match what we were doing. Well, golly, if Fayetteville's going to give a $2,500 bonus, and we're going to do a $2,500 or a $3,000 bonus. So it's a bidding war for these experienced, at least 5-year experienced officers. So we're trying to be as creative as possible to get those officers and then to retain those officers. And we've had a lot of our senior leadership to retire. So there's going to be folks moving up. So there's going to be opportunities for our younger officers to move up into the mid-level area. I will tell you, you can't, think, well, I'm going to get into the fire service, or I'm going to become a policeman and I'm just going to become wealthy. It's not going to happen. Just like you don't go to teach school to become wealthy. You do it out of a sense of obligation, out of a sense of service. And I want to thank those fire service officers. I want to thank our police officers. I want to thank our school teachers. And what they do each and every day is so important. My daughter's a nurse. I want to thank those nurses, those folks, those first responders, frontline folks. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how my daughter works the emergency room, and have just something I couldn't do, and she loves it. And so I'm thrilled that there are folks that do that. I'm thrilled for folks who go into the service in our Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard. I'm thankful those folks who are doing that.
For being a first responder and even going into the military, it does take a special person willing to make those sacrifices and understand that employment is not going to be all roses. Lots of sacrifice, lots of struggling, and I mean, goodness, with the military, who knows? It's just crazy out there. So yeah, definitely we appreciate all those people that do step up to those challenges. Getting back to talking about having, we have Amazon here, and now when I first moved here back in 2016, was having a conversation with someone. I don't really remember how it all transpired, but basically, what they were saying was that Fayetteville was doing an okay job at attracting certain caliber of people to come to Fayetteville. Just talking specifically about physicians, doctors. But that when the wives came and were not impressed with Fayetteville because there weren't a lot of things to do, that they could see for families or just entertainment in general, I guess. And, sitting here and having been here a few years, I know that's not true. It's, but when you first arrive and you first get here, there's no big skyscrapers and there's no TV station. So there's not certain things that are flashy that make you go, oh, things are happening here. So that's a challenge. And how do you see overcoming that challenge, that when the talent do come, that they don't pop in and then pop back out because it just wasn't what they were expecting right away?
You're exactly right. We have to invest more in our arts community, and I want to applaud the county for moving this Performing Arts Center situation forward. As a conservative, I can tell you we're going to lose money on it. I mean, Durham, they may break even at best, and they've had it for 35 or 40 years now. The Crown Coliseum, we've lost money on, the county's lost money on that, every single year. I think now they're only losing about $300,000 a year. But it's a great social event. I mean, I love going to that hockey game. I used to go, to the basketball games there. I mean, it was great talent. I mean, some of those guys made it to the bigs. I mean,
right.
in the NBA. Yeah. And, a few of our hockey guys made it up to like what they call the I or the A, the International League or the American Hockey League. But very few made it to the NHL. Now, we've invested, $43 million into that baseball stadium. And last count, there have been 7 woodpeckers in the major leagues. I mean,
nice.
That's cool.
It is cool.
And
very nice.
So to answer your question, we have to create more arts and entertainment, especially for our spouses of our military, besides the spouses of our business people here. So, yes, we've invested in our baseball stadium. I believe the county is going to invest in a Performing Arts Center. The state has invested in the Cape Fear Regional Theater. They had a program for about a $9 million expansion. They've moved it to $15 million because the state of North Carolina wrote them a $5 million check.
Wow.
And they've raised $2.5 million. They've got quite a few more million to go, but that's going to be excellent because they're appealing to a diverse part of the community, and that's what we need to be doing. The state of North Carolina is investing whatever it is now, 130 or 140 million in the Fayetteville state. That's fantastic. It's going to revolutionize that campus. We must invest in education, and we must invest in our arts and entertainment. We must continue to help our arts council. We must continue to help Cool Spring downtown district. All this stuff matters because if we can create economic development, create jobs, decent paying jobs, and entertainment and excitement and fun, that's going to thrill those family members. Because, yes, you're right. When our guys and our ladies deploy, CONUS, as they like to say, outside the continental United States, the family was the ones left behind. And, during Vietnam and when I was growing up and during Desert Storm, a lot of folks went back home to mom and dad. These days, they pretty much stay here if our soldiers are deployed or our airmen. So, we've got to continue to invest. And the city and the county have got to continue to try to work things together, whether it be our homeless situation or our performing arts center. We got to get this. We got to get an expansion on our landfill. We got to get that worked out, and we got to continue to utilize PwC to impact economic development. So lots going on.
Now, and I'll refer to Amazon again, with Amazon having come, and that's, the big monster. So they're here. Who else is looking now? Now that Amazon is here, there must be some other companies that are kind of intrigued. Well, if Amazon's going there, maybe maybe it's worth a look.
That's such a great point, Boz. Now what's happening, and this is what I've been pushing. Of course, I know the folks at Booz Allen Hamilton, and we've got a lot of other great AVEX and other great military subcontractors. But what's happening now is these folks see this Amazon facility. Well, they can put their products in there so that they can get same-day delivery to a unit, say, at Fort Bragg. Mm-hmm. And that is going to impact our job situation. This facility, even though majority of the product in that 900,000 square foot facility,
so huge,
is not paid for until it's pulled off the shelf. And we can discuss that. If that's how Walmart makes their money. That's how Amazon makes their money. They don't put any cash into that product until it comes off the shelf and then gets billed. So what happens now is you've got folks that want to put their products in there so they can get that same day delivery, that fast delivery. And in the business of Fort Bragg, they got to be wheels up, as you know, within 18 hours. That's why it's called the 18th Airborne Corps. But then there's some folks that wear those green berets. They might leave in 6 hours, 8 hours notice.
Wow.
And they need product quickly. And so this is an opportunity. But military subcontractors is who we want, and that's who we want coming to town and investing, because those jobs are more than these $18 to $20 an hour. They're much, much higher than that.
Well, it was exciting to hear that Amazon came to Fayetteville. When again, I refer back to my experience, and when I moved here in 2016, we moved here from Reno, and Tesla had just opened up a plant or warehouse or whatever you want to call it, facilities there. And that was one of my questions, I think, to someone on that it was in the new economic advisory board or what have you. And I said, so, what can you do to bring a Tesla here? And well, now here's Amazon, huge company.
Great point. I was in the computer business in the 80s and 90s, and then I got into insurance in 2000. And one of my suppliers was a company called Tech Data. And they, in the mid-'80s, built a facility in Reno that everybody said, y'all were crazy to put that thing in Reno. And sure enough, they were brilliant, because they're still in business 30-some years later, because Reno is a crossroads. You can get from Reno to Salt Lake or to Denver or to San Francisco or to Portland or to Southern California. And what a great move. Reno's becoming a distribution center for the West for ground transportation, and whereas Denver is more the air transportation. But great analogy, and that's what we hope to have happen here. We want to become a ground transportation center. Now, we can also talk about our airport. We're talking to some folks about some warehousing. Whenever I fly, and I fly a lot, I notice when I fly into, say, Charlotte, or pretty much for another one, Sacramento, I was at a couple weeks ago, the number of distribution buildings that are beside those airports. We've got to get water and sewer completely surrounding our airport so that it becomes a hub for distribution. And because a lot of these, for instance, Atlanta, a lot of their flight pattern is all taken up now. So, they're looking for secondary and tertiary markets to be able to expand into, to be able to get products, so that, and we sit at 95 and we're very close to 40. So, we've got to get our zoning right for the airport. We got to get water and sewer right. And we got to work closely with the county, PwC, and then we've got to we allocate a little bit of money to do that, $1.5 million, so that'll get it started. But yes, infrastructure is so important for economic development.
You look at Raleigh being the big, it's the capital, but also the next big city close by, and just thinking about how much it must cost to position yourself there. And here we are, Fayetteville, not really all that far away. And if you're looking at a cost analysis benefit or whatever, I would think that Fayetteville would be, very appealing in that regard, especially with Fort Bragg, right next door.
Absolutely. We're competing with Sanford. We're competing with Buquay. We're in that $110 to $130 a square foot for a residential house, and Raleigh now is between $200 and $220. And we have to do a better job of attracting folks and telling our story. We tell our story, we can win. And that's our focus. We may not be able to get a bunch more airlines, but we can get some distribution airlines.
Right.
We can get DHL, a bigger commitment out of them. FedEx is going to be flying more jets in here because of that Amazon facility. And then, of course, who knows what Amazon's going to do as it pertains to air shipping. It'd be interesting to watch. UPS is growing. UPS is looking at Fayetteville, our airport. UPS, of course, their distribution center being Atlanta is absolutely huge. FedEx being Memphis. But, now they're seeing, oh, my goodness, we can't get any more flights in there. But, Fayetteville's available. Fayetteville is affordable.
Talking about Fayetteville telling its story, and pardon my ignorance a little bit on this, so I want to talk about the Market House just for a second because of its historic relevance, and that can be such a huge part of the story. Can you talk a little bit about that and what's happening or what?
Right. Wow, you're touching on some tough subjects here. Well, of course, historically, it's one of either two or three of this English-style architecture still left in the world. I think one of them is actually in England, and I can't remember where the other one is, besides our Market House. And I'm so thankful that the council decided to refurbish or renovate. We're trying to repurpose this Market House, and it's a very, sensitive subject to so many, because to some it reminds them of slavery and the terrible time in the 19th century, and then, of course, Reconstruction, and such a challenging time for our African Americans. And but as I stress, I said, I've served with both African American mayors, Marshall Pitts and Mitch Colvin, and I say, look, see how far we've come. I mean, we're a melting pot. Fayetteville is a melting pot of the United States. Every diverse ethnic group I can think of is represented here. Just look at the restaurants we have. My goodness. Yes. If you want a particular Chinese or a particular Thai or a particular Korean, we've got it. And of course, what we have to do is make sure we're very sensitive to the concerns of our minority community as it pertains to the Market House, and yet also be proud of how far we have come as a society. Right. And that's what I stress. The old story about Eleanor Roosevelt when she came through here in the 1930s, early 40s, and had the train stop, and she walked to the Market House because she wanted to see that building. And so it's something that we need to protect and preserve and to repurpose, and to make sure that we have lots of folks contribute to the conversation. We can make that a a shining star of our city, but to so many, it's going to take some time. There's some very hurtful feelings, and those that I don't understand. And as I tell my African American friends, I said I will not ever understand. But all I can do is tell you, hey, let's figure out how we can make it a treasure and something that will build up and talk about how far we've come as a society, to be able to something to point to as something that overall, look, this is what's happened. We now have an African American mayor, and let's get past race if at all possible. And that's a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. But it is an interesting building, and I've seen so many pictures with it that essentially represent Fayetteville. So it would be sad that for something to happen to it. So it's good to hear that it will remain, and not only that, but we don't want history to repeat itself. So there needs to be that beacon that says, remember your past, so that we don't do it again.
Great point. Whatever that saying is about, if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat history. Mm-hmm. But we'll never have slavery again in this country, and that won't ever happen. Well, as long as the folks keep electing me, I will do all I can to make sure that never happens. But I think we're fine there. I think what we have to do is to create opportunity. The mayor and I talk quite a bit, and I tell him, I said, Mayor, the most important color to me is green, and because I want more folks having green in their back pocket, and meaning money. Because if folks have money in their back pocket, they're out, they're spending it, and they're enjoying their life, and we're improving the quality of life. And when we're spending more money, that creates other companies who want to come in and say, hey, these folks are spending money. We want to be where they are. We want some of that money. Mm-hmm. So they'd have to invest here to be able to get some of our money.
Excellent. I appreciate you taking time to come talk with us here on the Nice Show. Is there anything that you want to just let people know about as they're thinking about going to the polls and make sure that they check that ballot for you?
Well, thanks, Boz. I'm Johny Dawkins. I try to be as accessible as I possibly can, whether it's through text or a phone call or an email, whatever. Do not ever hesitate to talk to me and tell me your problem, and let's figure out a way to solve it. And that's what I'm focused on. But I appreciate the folks allowing me to serve. It's a huge honor for me. It's something I take very, very personally, very seriously. My dad always told me, he said, son, there's going to be times when you're not going to make everybody happy, but do what's best overall for the people. And never forget, you're a public servant. Don't ever be a public official. Always be a public servant. So, but thank you, Boz. You're mighty kind to let me come on and mention Johny Dawkins for Council District 5.
And thank you again, Councilman Dawkins. To those listening, if you have any questions, he's very approachable. Reach out to him and he will speak with you. Thank you also to publisher Bill Bowman for allowing me to use the up-and-coming conference room, and Linda McAllister for all of her support. Last but not least, thank you for clicking play and listening to the end. The podcast will be available on all major platforms soon, so you'll be able to subscribe where you like to listen. More interviews are on the way. Don't miss them. Subscribe to the newsletter at ccnc.news, and you can learn about the logo contest that I will be having. Until next time, remember to exercise your right to practice the golden rule and treat others the way you want to be treated in every instance and every interaction you have with others. Plant seeds of success in your mind's garden and watch your world change.